South China Morning Post, 28 October 2022. The mercenary army and private security firms will protect Chinese assets abroad from terrorist sabotage as Xi Jinping tries to keep his power. China has taken over a lot of important places in many countries around the world. Use her projects to get out of debt. This has made a lot of people dislike China and Chinese projects. China needs an army outside China to protect these assets and her interests. Analysts say that private security firms will play a much more significant role in protecting assets related to China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative now that President Xi Jinping has discussed improving foreign security at the 20th Party Congress. A study released this month by the conservative defense policy think tank Jamestown Foundation in Washington, D.C., says that the total market value of private military or security companies worldwide is between $100 billion and $244 billion. The International Data Corporation, a global market intelligence firm, said that between 2019 and 2023, China, Latin American, and Asia-Pacific countries would spend the most on overseas security. This was based on data from a 2020 Carnegie Endowment for International Peace think tank report. Paul Nantulia, a research assistant at the Africa Center for Strategic Studies in Washington, D.C., said that China's move from staying out of the spotlight to claiming global leadership makes it possible for Chinese security contractors to work in more countries. As part of its Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, the Chinese government wants to increase its economic and security interests abroad. To protect these interests, it intends to increase its military presence abroad. Nantulia said that it is planned to hire more security firms run by former members of the People's Liberation Army and the Chinese police to protect Chinese state-owned companies working on the Belt and Road Initiative's multi-million-dollar projects. But there will be a lot of anger and hostility in these occupied countries that China will have to deal with. According to research from the Peace Research Institute in Frankfurt, too many investments in Belt and Road projects are being made in places that are unsafe or of conflicts, like Pakistan, Myanmar, Nigeria, and Sri Lanka. In secret, China is using the Belt and Road Investment Program to hide their plan to trap people in debt. They plan to cause financial crises in poor countries and will be responsible for fixing them. According to Pascal Ab, a China expert at the German Institute, after the coup in Myanmar in 2021, protesters in Yangon set fire to textile factories that Chinese people owned as a way to punish China for what they saw as supporting the new junta government. Belt and Road Initiative projects are often in areas with conflict, which makes them vulnerable to particular threats. This creates a natural market for protection services. During the 20th Party Congress, Xi said, "We will strengthen our ability to protect the legal rights and interests of Chinese citizens and legal entities overseas and ensure their safety." Beijing's big plan to connect infrastructure, the Belt and Road Initiative, makes it easy for local chaos to spread along its funding routes. Kazakhstan is a link between China and Europe, so when there was trouble in January, people worried about how it would affect Chinese businesses and people living in Central Asia. A few months earlier, in August 2021, the Chinese ambassador in Pakistan spoke out against the suicide bombing that killed 4 people and injured a group of Chinese engineers at the port of Gwadar, which is an essential stop on the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. A researcher at the European Foundation for South Asian Studies named Aaron Magana said, "The Belt and Road Initiative has created and kept up a demand for Chinese private security companies abroad." China broke international law when it set up illegal police stations outside of China to spy on and control its people. This is a terrible breach of territorial authority. It was brought up that these services are also being used to protect initiative-related assets in Southeast Asia, with a strong presence in Cambodia. The Peace Research Institute Oslo says about 5,000 registered security firms are already in China. These firms hire over 4 million people, many of whom were once in the People's Liberation Army or armed police. Ilaria Karotsa, an official from a private research institute in Norway, said, "About 20 security firms in China are licensed to work overseas, and they employ over 3,000 individual contractors. The real number is probably higher." A January study by the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, D.C., found that private security companies are a good way for Beijing to show its power abroad when the Chinese government doesn't want to send the People's Liberation Army. In Frankfurt, Ab also said that top Chinese officials have discussed the need to improve security worldwide for years. At the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, Han Fangming has been calling for private security company Reforms on the supply side, Abe said. Abe said that Han, now the head of the Charter Institute think tank in Beijing, called for greater freedom for private security companies in China in a 2015 report. He also suggested that these companies work together with Chinese security companies. Whenever there is Chinese security, they will be attacked. A constant, low-level war and attack will ruin Chinese investments abroad. A professor of international affairs at Australia's Bond University, Rosita Delios, said this type of security is becoming more popular worldwide. However, China is still in the early stages of using it. Outside of China, where there aren't many rules, private security companies might be able to become personal, she said. But in reality, the integration of the military and civilians could happen, especially when protecting the Belt and Road Initiative assets from terrorist attacks. Abe said that Chinese private security companies are behind the times compared to US and foreign companies. This is because they lack local experience, contacts, or acceptance. Zhang Yifan, an economics professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, said the Belt and Road Initiative should also be a road of culture and friendship to help people from different backgrounds blend in. He said, China can do more to accommodate the local cultures of these countries. He also said spending money to protect cultural heritage could help China deal with backlash from those living there. But this is hard to do because Chinese people have a hard time fitting in with other cultures and are very racist, making people angry and resentful. The head of economics at Lingnan University in Hong Kong, Chu Dongshao, agreed with this point of view. He said, China should build better people-to-people relationships in the Belt and Road Initiative countries in addition to investing in infrastructure. But Nantulia from the Africa Center for Strategic Studies in Washington, D.C., said that Xi's speech at the 20th Party meeting confirmed China's one-country effort to change global security norms and practices, even though Belt and Road projects have caused discontent in other countries. He said the Belt and Road Initiative is a major foreign project that might get smaller, but it won't go away. The biggest threat is that sovereign nation could take over these debt trap projects under national security laws.